Hi, my name is Anna Urai, and I will here present the project Parietal and Motor Cortical Dynamics Differentially Shape the Computation of Choice History Bias. When making decisions about noisy sensory stimuli, observers often show a systematic tendency to repeat or alternate their choices. This is the case even when stimulus sequences are presented randomly. And this phenomenon has been described in the literature for over a century under the names of sequential effects, intertrial dependence, or choice hysteresis. And I will here refer to it as choice history bias. In this study, we pinpointed neural signatures of choice history bias across sensory motor cortical pathways, and we linked these neural signatures to distinct computations in a visual decision task. 60 human volunteers performed a two-interval motion coherence discrimination task while we recorded their brain activity using MEG. On each trial, they judged whether the motion coherence of a test stimulus was either stronger or weaker than that of a preceding reference stimulus, which was always shown at fixed coherence. And we then extracted known oscillatory signatures of visual motion processing. Specifically, when observers viewed stronger versus weaker visual motion stimuli on the screen, MEG sensors over occipital cortex showed enhanced gamma power and suppressed alpha band power. We then extracted neural signals at the source level, focusing on visual field maps in occipital and parietal cortex and more frontal areas involved in action preparation. Using a linear model, we first confirmed that gamma and alpha band activity in early visual areas encoded the current stimulus category, namely the strength of visual motion that we showed on the screen. Crucially, activity in the intraparietal sulcus also tracked observers' choices from the previous trial. Gamma band power in IPS 2.3, as well as alpha band power in IPS 0.1, were enhanced when they were preceded by a stronger choice. Now, interestingly, these two history effects showed an opposite dependence on the previous decision outcome. The IPS 2.3 gamma effect was only present after correct trials, whereas the IPS 0.1 alpha effect was only present after error trials. Because the mapping between choices, stronger versus weaker, and motor actions, left versus right button press, varied between participants, we could disentangle the effects of choice and action on neural activity in our group analysis. The lateralization of low-frequency beta band power over motor cortex predicted the upcoming motor action. And after the button press, this lateralization reversed, a phenomenon which is known as the beta rebound. This lateralization then carried over all the way to the baseline of the next trial. So in several motor cortical areas, we can extract a neural signature of action history. So in sum, we identified three neural signals that encoded different aspects of the previous choice: the perceptual decision in IPS 2.3 gamma and in IPS 0.1 alpha band power, as well as the motor act used to report that choice in the lateralization over motor cortical areas. We then used each of these signals in behavioral models and constrained their functional significance for behavior. First, we fit the drift diffusion model, where choice bias can arise from two different sources. On the one hand, an offset prior to the decision, which is known as starting point, shifts the decision variable to one of the two decision bounds. On the other hand, the input to the evidence accumulator can be biased throughout decision formation. Such a drift bias affects the decision process just like a bias in the physical stimulus would, and it produces a stimulus-independent asymmetry in the rate of evidence accumulation towards one versus the other bound. We fit the drift diffusion model and quantified the effect of each trial-by-trial neural history signature on both drift bias and starting point. We found that the IPS 2.3 gamma signal predicted a positive modulation of drift bias, pushing decisions in the direction of choice repetition. The IPS 0.1 alpha signal did not predict either computational parameter, and the motor beta lateralization signal predicted a negative modulation of starting point in the direction of choice alternation, opposite to the parietal gamma signal. Next, we modeled the causal effect of each of these neural signals using a mediation analysis. We found that only the IPS2/3 gamma band signal, but neither of the other two signals, played a significant role in mediating the effect of previous choices onto current choices, taking into account the stimulus sequence. We also observed a significant direct effect. Such a partial mediation is not surprising, given that the single trial MEG data that we measure are noisy and only coarse population proxies of the cellular level signals that drive choice behavior. Lastly, we asked if our neural signatures may be related to individual differences in behavior. Although stimulus categories were by design uncorrelated across trials, choice behavior showed history biases that are highly idiosyncratic, as we and many others have found in previous work. Now, interestingly, the effect of previous choices on IPS2/3 gamma band signals was only significantly present in those observers who tend to repeat, and it differed between groups of alternators and repeaters. Neither of the other two history signals showed such a difference between subgroups. So to conclude, we found that choice and action history biases are reflected in parietal and motor cortical dynamics. Motor beta lateralization reflects action history and predicts the starting point of the evidence accumulation process, whereas parietal gamma band power, specifically in IPS2 and 3, reflects choice history and predicts a drift bias in the evidence accumulation process. It also mediates choice repetition bias, and it is stronger in those observers who tend to repeat their choice one after the other. Now, taken together, these results indicate that parietal gamma band dynamics, confined to quite specific parietal subregions, reflect action-independent choice signals, which dominate the idiosyncratic choice history effects that we see in overt choice behavior. This suggests that parietal cortex may integrate and sustain decision-relevant information not just within, but also across trials, and thereby provides a bridge between sensory responses and longer-lasting beliefs about the structure of the environment. I thank you for watching. You can find more information in the preprint, and I look forward to further discussing in the Neuromatch Discord.